Southern Illinois' home for the best Christian music and the biggest variety. You're listening to 90.9 and 105.5 The Vine. That is Building 429 and Impossible. Love that song. Love that song. Early in the morning gets you going. Well, I told you earlier we're going to have a guest today here with me, and so I want to go ahead and bring her on. Falyn Edwards.
Hi.
And she is here from the InterVarsity campus ministry at SIU.
Yes. Hi, Jenny. Thanks for having me on.
I am so excited about this. When the topic came up, it was kind of one of those like, yeah, I should be doing that because I have a son. My oldest child will be heading off next school year to college. And so we've been doing the college tours, and we've been, I have a lot of questions and not all the answers yet. But tell us a little bit, first of all, what is InterVarsity campus ministry?
Yeah, of course. So InterVarsity is an interdenominational Christian ministry. So we have students of like Lutheran backgrounds, Catholic backgrounds, Methodist, Presbyterian, Baptist that all come together, and we do a lot of evangelism on campus. We do a lot of teaching, a lot of Bible studies, a lot of discipleship. So doing some spiritual counseling, doing just random things and events to kind of connect the students to the campus and saying like, okay, you're in college now. This is where God called you to be. And now let's reach out to them. So.
Wow. Okay. So do you I guess you find these students find you don't go out anywhere other than just on campus, and how do you get students to come in to want to be a part of this ministry?
Right.
Because SIU does have different campus ministries that are denominational.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that's your pulling point that gets kids interested in being with other people with maybe sort of the kind of like faith, but not necessarily totally, because for some kids that's a little scary.
Yeah. I think what's interesting is that a lot of students are really drawn to that fact that it's like, okay, we're focusing on what unites us, the fact that like we're all bound together by Christ and that we all have this common mission to go and make disciples. And so a lot of students are just like, okay, I'm coming to college and like I was raised in the church, or maybe like I wasn't raised in the church and I want to explore Christianity or something. And then they do like a Google search and maybe find us, or maybe we're on campus and we're doing snow cone tables or info tables and passing out stuff. And they're like, oh, like, yeah, I could be interested in learning about that.
Right now, as of this year, at this moment in time, about how many students do you have involved in this?
This year, so every week we do like a large group worship and sermon, and we had our large group ever, which is about 184 students. Wow. But a lot of those students don't go to Bible studies, or there are a lot of students that go to the Bible studies on campus that don't come to that. So we have around maybe 200, a little over or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you said that you focus on what unites. Is that, again, I'm trying to not ask all these questions from a parent's perspective, but curiosity wants to know, is it surprising for these kids to find out that they can have really good friends that maybe have somewhat of a different belief system, when they really are taught that the bottom line is we are unified?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen some students in the past that have grown up from like very strict denomination, or maybe like their family has been this denomination specific for years and years. Right. And then all of a sudden they meet a friend that's like of a different denomination, and they're like, oh, okay, like you're saying the same thing I'm saying, just maybe in different words.
In different ways, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is really cool to see kind of that like reconciliation component happen of like students just coming together and worshiping.
So how hard is it then to get together for a sermon when you're trying not to step on any denominational toes?
Yeah.
I mean, is that challenging, or is it so far pretty easy?
I would say it's pretty easy. Every week we have like a different speaker come, and so they're usually from the local churches and local pastors that we know, or maybe one of the InterVarsity staff workers. And I think that it's pretty easy because we just take the Bible passage for what it's saying. We don't do like anything that's really topical related. We like are looking through a book of the Bible or a certain passage and just what does it say to us? So
wow. Wow. Okay. Well, we're gonna take a break, but we'll be back.
Okay.
For more information about this, because again, I have a lot of questions. So for all you parents out there, I'm doing this for you. I'm asking all these mothering questions because it is something when you're getting ready to send your child off to college, and they've been raised in the church.
Yeah.
And you don't want them to lose that because, as I was telling you off the air, for me, that's whenever I had to realize what I believed and why I believed it. Not with any really support system there. I wasn't involved in any type of campus ministry whatsoever. So it was kind of like I felt like I was standing alone, but knew that I had to make a stand, and so I did that. And as a parent, it was a hard situation for me to go through, but it made me stronger, and it really altered where I could have went as to where I'm at now. And so as a parent's perspective, it's definitely one of those things that, you want the best for your children.
Absolutely.
And you don't want them to falter or to be led someplace else. And now more than ever is campus ministry so important because they're being bombarded at a very young age with things that really, they're not true statements. They're not biblical in any given way that you try and twist it. It's just a lot of perversion and trying to pass that off as this is okay, when really, if you look, it's not natural and it's not at all the way God intended. And so for some kids that don't have a strong foundation, that's hard to deal with. Then when they're thrown into a college and they feel like they have freedom and they don't really know. So I want to talk a little bit more maybe into that, but then again, just some questions from a mom's perspective here to ease me because, in 12 months from now, I'll already have dropped him off and said goodbye. And I probably shouldn't be texting him every campus ministry, every week. So we'll be back with Falyn Edwards with some more information about InterVarsity campus ministry in just a moment. That's Ocean Deep from Building 429 right here on Real Life Radio, 90.9 and 105.5 The Vine. Well, we're back with Falyn Edwards from InterVarsity Campus Ministry at SIU. And so we've been just very chatty, or I've been very chatty off the air. So let me extend some of these things. As a parent who's looking to send my son off to college next year, what would you tell me? What would be your selling point for me as far as just involvement in campus ministry and what you do and what you're there for these kids, that I'm not going to be there to be that person that they usually come to. My son's he's been born and raised in a Christian home. And so if there's any questions or concerns, he comes to us. So take us out of the picture. Tell me how you fit into being that support system for them.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting because a lot of people will ask, what's the need for campus ministry versus a church? And the thing is that in a lot of college towns, the churches don't know how to work with college students because they're not their kids. And that's not the church that these kids grew up in. And so providing a campus ministry that is very context specific kind of provides us, I guess, with the opportunity to meet with these students and to be able to provide spiritual guidance or whatever you want to call it. And so for you, I would say that or to any parent really, I'd say tell your students to get involved, first of all, with something whenever they go to college, whether that's a campus ministry. I would highly suggest that because that's very good. But getting involved is really important. And then being able to trust your students or being able to trust your children and say, asking them to seek out community and asking them to seek out people of faith. Just because, like I said, the churches, they don't really know what to do with college students unless it's a college student church.
Right.
They just don't know what to do with the college students because they feel like, I don't have any authority over these kids. I have no idea what to do. And so us as staff are kind of trained in how to work and contextualize our mission to the college students. So we know what to do with them.
So a lot of because you also, you were part of InterVarsity as a student. Yeah. And now you're involved as a staff. So for you, is it a lot of one-on-one, or is it maybe small groups, or is it the whole group? Or is it all of that?
Like, it is all of it.
Okay.
It is all of it. So I was telling you, I got my master's in counseling. So I do a lot of one-on-one because I love discipleship. I love that one-on-one meeting with a student because that's where you can say like, okay, I know what you're struggling with, and this is where I can speak truth into your life and help guide you. And then we do have small group like Bible studies. And that's where it's kind of like being accountable in a community aspect and being on mission together. And then we do have a large group opportunity where it's like we're all together, we're all united. So yeah, everything.
So how often do you meet as a large group?
Once a week.
Okay. And then into small groups?
Once a week.
Once a week. Okay.
Yeah. So there's one night is like our small group Bible studies. And then one other night of the week on Thursday nights, we do our large groups. And then if you're like being discipled by somebody, usually you'll meet up with them once a week too.
Wow. So as a student, go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a student, what was the best thing that happened to you as a part of InterVarsity?
Oh my gosh. I love this question. When I transferred, I went to a community college. And then when I transferred to SIU, a lot of my family was really nervous because it was like, SIU is kind of a party school.
Right. Yeah.
And like it has that reputation.
Right.
And so I was really nervous. Like, what am I getting myself involved with? And then I was just in a place of brokenness emotionally and spiritually. And these people found me and they just like wrapped their arms around me and they were like, we want to walk with you in college. And I think like having that accountability, having that friendship, having people, really strong Christians that were like, yeah, college is hard and like being away from home is hard, but like Jesus has called you here and he's equipping you to be here. And so just like walk with us. My life was transformed through that. Just
wow.
like, yeah, it was really awesome.
Wow. And then as a staff so far, what is it, if you had one goal for this year?
Oh my gosh.
Just one thing that you could see accomplished, what would that be? There's so many things. I think like I just want to see students surrender more of their lives to Christ. So whether that's like in the form of a first-time commitment of like becoming a Christian for the first time, or like meeting with a student who maybe is struggling with some sin or struggling with some things, like really lay that down and say like, okay, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to let you lead my life. Like I'm going to let you actually be Lord of this. Wow. So with that being said, do you feel that this ministry sees a lot of students come to Christ for the first time?
I would say like over the span of a year, we usually have maybe a dozen or so come to Christ.
Which is really good with the numbers. I mean, if you're looking at 180 to 200 plus, that's a good number.
Yeah, our first large group of the year, which is our large group worship and speaker, we had 10 students stand for either first time or recommitments. And so that's really kind of big, like the first week in college.
Especially to start college off that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's very cool. Mm-hmm.
Wow. You know, I've heard it said so many times from different people, you know, you can be let's just take, for instance, a doctor. You can be a doctor who's a Christian, or you can be a Christian doctor. Mm-hmm. And I think whichever way you look at it, that's what's going to impact the world. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
If a student is going to school to become a doctor and they just happen to be a Christian, then that's how they're going to live their life, is it just happen to be Christian.
Yeah.
But if you're going to school as I'm a Christian who is a doctor, that God has called me to that field, that takes a whole different spin.
It really does.
On your career, your college, your future. I mean, that changes everything. And so that's the thing that I love about campus ministry, is that, hey, this isn't just for like now. This is just a launching pad for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, not only are we here to help you and equip you, but we're also here to show you that your future doesn't start when you get the degree.
Yeah,
it starts now.
Yes. And I think that is really, really important. And that's something that I love about InterVarsity specifically, is that it's taking students and saying like, okay, you're missionaries now as students, but like you're learning business, or you're learning English, or you're learning whatever you want to call it, psychology, whatever, doctors. You're learning all these different things, and you're taking the skills that you're learning now. And then one day you're going to be able to apply that, and you're going to be able to take your faith and let that be a defining part of your identity, or let it be your identity, you know?
Well, lots of great things. Lots of great. I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to come and visit the InterVarsity because SIU does have such a reputation as a party school. I mean, from people that aren't around here, like that is the reputation. And so it's one of those things from living in Southern Illinois, people are like, so where are you from when you're someplace else? And you'll say, well, I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere, and you try and defer them like I'm this far south of St. Louis, and they'll be like, oh, what about SIU? And you're like, yeah, I live close to there too. And I was actually in Florida, and someone was like, are you close to SIU? And I was like, funny. Yeah, I actually am. And I told them how far we were from there, and they were like, oh, I went to school there.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know if I should pursue this, because you have that. There's that preconceived idea that it's a party university, so that's all that it produces. And I love that that's not all that it produces.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
That's just what's been talked about the most.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reputation that it has. And I think that it's going to come to a place where that's not the defining thing. It's that Jesus is Lord over SIU and all campuses, all college universities, all places, all nations, all tongues. And I think in the meantime, it is unfortunate that it has that reputation, but I think that gives us a beautiful framework of seeing, okay, but Jesus works in the brokenness.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it gives you an opportunity to really have a mission field.
Yeah, absolutely.
To change what people think of something and to be like, wow, that it used to be known as that, but it's not so much anymore. Yeah. You can really see the change in the presence. So I hope you can stick around a little bit longer. Yeah. We're going to come back in a few minutes and continue our discussion. Again, I'm speaking with Falyn Edwards of InterVarsity at SIU Campus Ministry. And I still have some other motherly things to ask, but I do want to share a little bit because it's a very unique budget that you have. So I do want to talk about that because everyone says, well, how has that happened and where's the finances coming for this? So I do want to talk about that, and we'll talk about that when we come back.
Okay.
Your family's home for Christian music and ministry is right here at 90.9 and 105.5 The Vine. That was The Afters and Live On Forever. So this morning I have a guest in studio with me, Falyn Edwards from InterVarsity Campus Ministry at SIU, and I've asked all these mothering questions, and I'm feeling okay with the whole idea of sending him off next year, but by next year I may be the one coming in for counseling crying, no. So we've discussed several different things. One thing that I do want to touch on is everybody wants to know about the funding, and because a lot of times you join different things and there's fees and there's all this kind of stuff involved, and so you guys kind of have a unique budget strategy.
Yeah.
And so would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah. So since InterVarsity is a national and global wide organization, we're separate from the campus itself. So we don't really get any funding from the campus except for maybe scholarships or maybe things for events that we're holding. And so the staff workers for InterVarsity, since we operate as campus missionaries, we have to raise 100% of our program budget and then our salary. And so we have to raise all those funds, and it's a fun process.
And I'm sure your parents are real excited when you're like, well, I have this degree, but now I'm going to go raise money to do what I want to do.
Right. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, how does that work? And I'm like, well, I'm using my counseling degree. It's just in a different context.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay. So you are currently fundraising for the budget for your salary?
Yeah. The budget and the salary of having me on campus, because we have 5 staff on our campus at SIU, and 2 of us are in the process of fundraising before we can be on campus.
Okay. And so is this something that people can just donate towards, or is it something that you're actually doing different things to try and raise funds, or how is that working?
I would say more often than not, it's kind of like people partnering either monthly or through one-time gifts, so that it's providing that investment component of I do really value what they're doing at SIU or what they're doing on this college campus. And so I will give monthly to that or one time.
And so just as you said that, I'm just going to go ahead and elaborate a little bit there. Maybe you are a pastor, or a youth pastor in the area, and you have students in your congregation that go to SIU, I would like to encourage you to support not just Falyn, but support InterVarsity campus ministry, because it's not based on a denomination. So it's something that's really teaching. I like what you said about focusing on the unity within every denomination, coming together and being unified. And that's what Christ has called us to do, is to be united in the cause of him. And so, if that's you, if that's something that you think, what, we could do this, or maybe you have seniors this year and you guys would like to, I'm going to call it pledge, but donate so much per senior, just in honor of them. That would also be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, for sure.
And at the church that I attend, every week we teach about the tithe, and usually I have the tithe lesson at least once a month in our youth group, and I think that's huge importance for these kids to see. And so this is really going above and beyond the tithe. God asked for 10%, and this is going above and beyond that. And when you stop and think, wow, I just don't have it, I can't do that, or whatever, put it in perspective. Maybe it doesn't work out in paper that you don't have those kind of funds, that you can't write $1,000 check,
right.
But maybe you could send $20 this month or next month, or maybe this is going to be a birthday present for Jesus, and come November, December, you want to do something. This would be a great place to invest, because it's not just reaching in just one church. This is reaching the church.
Yeah.
And this is to really help bring unity on campuses. This is doing so much more. This is investing in kids. I like to think of it as you're helping provide what parents can't when they're there on campus.
Absolutely.
That you're stepping in that place and you're being that. If they have questions or concerns or they don't understand something, you guys are there for them. If they just need counseling to realize God's opened their eyes to, like, you know what, this isn't right. And how do I lay down this sin? They can come to you and get counseling for that. And counseling is not cheap.
Yeah, right.
And
Absolutely
so, as a parent, I want my children to seek out Christian counselors if they're ever in a place that they need that, for whatever the reason. So that's what you guys provide.
Yeah.
So again, maybe you are in that area. Maybe you're around the SIU area and you would just like to support that. This is a great it's a great investment.
Yeah, for sure.
It is a great investment, because you have no idea this side of heaven what the benefits from it are going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. The impact is huge. Like we were talking earlier, if these students are coming in studying pre-med and then they go out and they start serving people out of that Christian component of their life, then, I mean, that impact is huge.
And really, out of every occupation out there, there is some kind of there's not just medical missions.
Right.
There's missions in every occupation out there. And so when you're investing in something like this, I believe it's good ground to invest in. And so therefore there's going to be a harvest that comes in. And I think it's huge. I think it's one of those things that the church is there when politics don't work.
Yeah.
When government doesn't work, the church comes in and it works because they have the answer. I think that we can see that across the board right now in different countries where there's people that are homeless because they've had to flee their country. It's Christian organizations that are coming in that are giving them the food, the clothes, things to make shelter with. And that's what the church does. Yeah. And so to be able to equip these kids, not just for their time in college, but for their future.
Yeah. And for the future of America, really. Like, we were talking, like, whenever my parents or whenever the next generation is the older adults, like, these kids in college are going to be the ones who are shaping what's around them. And so, really,
And we need godly people.
Yeah, absolutely.
If there's ever been a time that this nation has needed more godly people in authority, it's now. And so we have that opportunity. So we will have all of that. We have recorded this interview, so it'll be archived. So it'll be out there for people to come back to later. I will probably be viewing it multiple times to satisfy myself as I send my son off next year. But we'll have all that information of how they can get in touch with you, get that link to donate. We would love to see that. And it's just so important that we let our young people know that we're there for them. and that we care.
Absolutely.
Because so many kids, not every college kid that you see comes in from a church, from a Christian home.
Right.
That you were there to be the light on that campus, and the darkness has to leave when there's light. And so it's so important that this is there for these kids, because for some of these students, this is the first time that they've heard that there's a choice. This is the first time that they've heard the gospel. This is the first time that they felt loved or accepted, or that they have purpose, or to know what, there's always been this drive in them and they didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And for the first time they meet Jesus Christ, and that's life changing.
It really is. And that's very common in college, because students are most open spiritually during that time of their lives. Yeah.
Would you just touch on that as far as these kids that come in, your percentage rates, as far as kids coming in, this is where they're probably the most vulnerable, because they do feel that they have freedom. They've always wanted freedom, and now they have it, and now what do they do with it? So can you just talk a little bit about that as far as, receptive to hearing the gospel?
Yeah, to hearing the gospel.
At that age.
Well, when I was in my master's program, I did like a short research project, and I had to compile a bunch of research articles on and I was looking specifically about college students and how they kind of form spirituality, or that what spirituality means to a college student. And during the ages of 18 and 24, you are building your identity for the first time. You're learning who you are and what you believe, and kind of what that means apart from your parents. And so you are most open spiritually during that time of your lives to explore Christianity, or to explore kind of what it is that you do believe. And so when these college students come in, not only are they most open to hearing about faith and religion, but they're also away from their parents for the first time. So they have that idea of like, I'm free, like I can explore, I can kind of figure out like who I am. And so it often turns out that it's like, okay, I'm me, and this is what I believe. And
wow, it's a great place to see young people find out who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And what better place to find it than in Jesus Christ?
Yeah, because so many kids go away to school thinking they're just going to get an education. And a lot of them get a great education, and a lot of them get educated in ways that they didn't expect.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
But what a positive alternative. So again, we are archiving this. It'll be on our website, and all the information that you can link up to help support this financially, to help Falyn earn her budget and her salary for the year. Talk about working and then working for the funds for it. I mean, that's a huge thing to take on. And so, especially when you have a master's degree, wow. But when you know that God has called you to do something,
absolutely,
you're okay with it.
Yeah. You take those thorns in your side, or you take the things that they tell you to do, and you're like, okay, this is for Jesus, and that's good. That's good enough.
And that's a great example for these students to see also.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have plenty of students who have come to me and they've been like, I would consider staff, but you have to fundraise. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. And they're like, but man, like your faith is huge. And it's like, you could have that too.
And to be able to share that testimony. I mean, that's a testimony itself, that these kids see that and they know it, and it makes them want to come to you and ask questions because they know that you're genuine. I mean, people with master's degree in counseling don't just usually say, okay, I'll also raise my funds to survive this year. And so for them to see your dedication and your commitment to it is huge.
Yeah, because then it influences them, and they're like, okay, well, if Falyn or if this staff worker has that faith, like what does that mean for me to have that faith in my life as a student or beyond? Yeah. Well,
I want to thank you so much for coming in and talking about InterVarsity at SIU. And, by people donating, we all could change this idea of SIU being a party school.
Yeah.
We could be the ones that facilitate the change, that make sure that it happens by donating to this. So I want to encourage you, if you are a parent, whatever school that your child's looking into, look at their campus ministry and see what kind of support system they have before you just drop them off. Because Because really, in a lot of ways, I was sharing with you earlier, for us, my son's been born and raised in a Christian home, accepted Christ at an early age, but he's always came to us. And so for us not to be there, I want to know that there's solid people there that can guide and direct him, that would give him godly counsel in every avenue. And so as a parent, thank you for what you do for all these kids, because it's life-changing. Yeah. And it for so many, it determines their eternity. Yeah. And there's no price you can put on that.
Thank you so much. That
thank you. Again, this will all be archived, and I encourage you to head over there and check it out so that you can figure out how and what ways that you want to support it financially. I know Falyn would be ever so grateful, and the students. You never know. There may be a student come up to you in heaven and say, you know what, because you gave, I'm here.
That's true.
So thank you so much for coming in
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay.